Legend Quest. I journey across Europe in search of King Arthur's legendary sword Excalibur. And I take on the jungles of Southeast Asia. We need to rappel down there. Looking for the magical wish-granting Sintamani stone.
There's a small chamber here. I've seen this symbol before. Oh, look at this. We have to get you down here, Kinga. Excalibur right here in this room.
My name is Ashley Cowie. I'm an author and archaeological explorer, specializing in ancient symbols and mysterious legends. I've spent years studying some of the world's most fascinating relics. Now I'm on the hunt to find out where they are. Some would hope that these secrets remain hidden, but I'll leave no stone unturned to uncover the truth in my legend quest. Excalibur, King Arthur's legendary sword, is one of the most sought-after artifacts in history. To this day, people literally tear up the English countryside looking for the mystical blade of Camelot. Legend says that in the 6th century, the magical sword was given to King Arthur by the Lady of the Lake. Excalibur was said to have the ability to defeat any foe in battle, blind enemies with its gleaming blade, and even shoot fire from its tip. One of Arthur's biggest challenges came when he encountered Lancelot, the greatest swordsman in the kingdom. They fought. Arthur was nearly defeated, and his victory came at the cost of his magical weapon being broken in two. Arthur called upon his trusted sorcerer, Merlin, to mend the sword. It took all Merlin's skill and power to repair the mighty blade. With Excalibur whole once more, Arthur went on to defeat all challenges to the crown and unite Britain under one throne. Years later, after his final battle, legend says Arthur ordered one of his knights to throw Excalibur back to the waters from where it came. The knight tossed the sword out over the water. The Lady of the Lake caught it and slowly pulled it below the surface. Excalibur was never seen again. If Excalibur existed, perhaps it was not returned to the lake. Kings were usually buried with their swords and would never go to the afterlife without them. If we were to have a chance of finding the sword, we have to begin by locating Arthur's burial site. And I think the key to finding it lies in an old Welsh text. Many believe Arthur was buried in Shropshire, England. There's an old Welsh text, the Red Book of Hergest, which points to Baschurch as the area where a king of the period may have been buried. Putting it all together, we're headed to the highest point in the landscape, only 6 miles from Baschurch, the Hawkstone Caves.
An early medieval poem that's been deciphered in the last few years, and there's reference to the Hawkstone Cave being the burial place of King Arthur. Hence the reason we're here.
If this is the burial place of King Arthur, we could be on our way to finding the legendary sword of Camelot.
Chisel marks, 4th century chisels. So this thing's been used for 1,600 years.
Look at that.
This is a man-made arch. They call it the Druid's Temple. Merlin was a druid.
Arthur may have been here, but there's no sign of his grave. I can't believe there's nothing here.
Here we go. Here's the lion.
Oh, wow, yeah.
This is some piece of work. I wonder if it's indicating a connection with Arthur. Lions were always used to represent leaders.
I've got a theory. There's one king of England who modeled himself after Arthur, who I know had possession of a seriously valuable sword. It makes sense in the context of this statue. Richard the Lionheart. History records that centuries after Arthur, England was in jeopardy. So its ruler, King Richard, signed a treaty with the powerful ruler of Sicily, King Tancred. Tancred gave Richard vast military resources, and in return, Richard gave Tancred a sword. One sword for a whole army?
we really need to check out the Tancred-King Richard connection.
Here's a visual representation of the treaty between Richard and Tancred that was created around the time it happened. There's Tancred.
That sword right there, that ain't an Italian medieval sword. That's a Roman sword from the time of Arthur. See the pommel on top, the straight hilt. In fact, the sword is higher than the king's head, and that again is unusual.
Did Richard come here and find Arthur's sword?
I think we have to try and find the sword that was given from Richard to Tancred. That could be Excalibur. The place we've got to start is Tancred's kingdom in Sicily.
Where we gotta go then?
So we're on our way to Tancred's palace in Palermo, Italy, the hub of Tancred's kingdom, and the place where he kept his most important possessions, to see if Excalibur might be there.
We have to look for mosaics, to look for architecture, to look for symbology or iconography leading us to Excalibur. Look at this. It's almost overwhelming. Although it looks confusing and mesmerizing, every single piece was done with intention. Every single thing means something.
Typically, ancient civilizations used their buildings to document dramatic events and display messages that would endure through the centuries. Paper burns and people die, but these buildings have lasted. There are thousands of clues here, and one is screaming Excalibur. We started our search for Excalibur in England at the Hawkstone Caves and found signs of King Richard, who modelled himself on King Arthur. We know as part of a treaty, King Richard gave King Tancred of Sicily a sword, possibly the legendary Excalibur. So we're here in Tancred's palace, looking for a clue to its whereabouts.
If the clue is in these mosaics, we're gonna start in the northeast corner. The builders followed this lead of the Bible, which said Jesus was the cornerstone on earth. They laid the first stone in the northeast corner. This is the northeast corner here.
What we need to do is see if we can find anything that could be related to the legend of Arthur and Excalibur.
Look here, water. It's quite unusual to see water so high up in the base of a church. You normally find that in the crypts down below. Could that reference the Lady of the Lake, where Excalibur came from? And look beside there. What do we know about Merlin? He was called the Stag of the Woods. Right there behind it. Where did Arthur live? Camelot. We have a castle right there.
I see it.
The mosaic elements are all adding up to this place having a connection with Excalibur. Then in order to find its location, we need to look directly across from this mosaic to the second most holy location, the southeast corner. Because that's where Tancred would leave a clue as to the location of the sword.
What do you see? Mary and Jesus.
It is.
Look what's in front of Mary and Jesus. A sword. I don't see any other swords in here. And look behind Mary, there's a cave.
That's exactly what that is.
Telling us that Excalibur arrived here, and at some time in the last 900 years, it's been moved by someone to a cave.
Perhaps a holy cave, as indicated by Mary and Jesus.
Such a detailed story.
So, what we've got to do is find some form of indicator or clue leading us to the whereabouts of a cave. Here. You know what that sign is? That's the cross of the Knights Templar.
The Knights Templar were called upon to protect many of Europe's most sacred relics. Kings across the region turned to them to help hide treasures. In return, the kings were supposed to pay the Templars, but many kings were either broke or corrupt, and so some treasures are still thought to be in the possession of the Templars today. The fact that there are indications of the Templars here in these mosaics leads me to believe that Tancred may have entrusted Excalibur with the Templars for safekeeping. There are several images of angels, which may represent the Templars overseeing and protecting the sword. One of the angels is even pointing to the entrance of the cave and the image of Mary and Jesus.
Where's the cave? We need to find a Templar cave. And I know exactly how we start.
The same orientation the Templars would use to begin construction of a building, they used to create alignments from one holy site to another, the northeast, derived from the most sacred point in the sun's annual cycle. To determine where they went with a sword, we need to draw a line from the center of Tancred's palace here in Palermo through the northeast corner of the building and beyond, looking for a sacred Templar location with a cave system. Following the alignment, there's only one place that fits all our criteria: the Templar stronghold of Ostuni. We're meeting a contact of mine in Ostuni, who will take us to a cave located directly underneath one of the most significant Templar holy places in Italy, the Ostuni Cathedral. The Templars used the cave during the time of King Tancred, and it would have been the perfect place to safeguard any sacred object, such as the sword.
It's huge. It's like a big natural dome. See where the back of the cave goes in, where it starts getting dark. That arch is very, very similar to the mosaic.
If this is the cave depicted on the mosaic, Excalibur could be right under our feet. There's only one way to find out.
Keep listening. I'll see you soon.
Be careful, Ashley.
Okay, I'm at the first hole. I'm gonna try to hook my body through. You know, you gotta kind of hang yourself to get through this.
It's so tight in here. Me and the cameraman can barely squeeze through.
Oh man, look at that drop. There's so many places it could be. There's a small chamber here. Perfect hiding place for Excalibur. I've never seen anything like this. This is tearing me apart.
Searching through King Tancred's palace in Palermo, I found a series of images indicating Excalibur may have been hidden in a cave by the Knights Templar. We're here below the Ostuni Cathedral, where the Templars may have hidden Excalibur.
There's a small chamber here. This is tearing me apart. There goes the watch. It opens up in that chamber. Can't even see the back. Okay, what about down here? Okay, let me see.
If it's not in this spot, it ain't here.
There's nothing. Never seen anything like that in my life.
I do believe we're on the right track. We have to keep on the trail of the Templars. That cave in Ostuni may well have been where the Knights Templar kept Excalibur for safekeeping. However, towards the end of the Third Crusade, there was an awful lot of unrest in Italy, and the Templars would have known that for safekeeping, Excalibur had to be moved on. Now, I've contacted one of the Grand Priors of the Knights Templar. He tells me that it's believed a cache of relics that had been stored in Ostuni was moved to France shortly after the Third Crusade. What if Excalibur was among them? If that was the case, where did it go? I have a theory about that. It's known that many Templars transporting valuables into France went to one place in particular. If the Ostuni treasures went to France, that is where they may have been taken. So we're heading deep into Templar territory, to a Templar fortification with a vault-like catacomb, the Templar Commandery in Marne-la-Vallée in northern France.